Friends, and welcome back to another video on TVBM. Today's inspiration is drawn from Psalms 139:14. I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made, and marvelous are thy works, and that thy soul knoweth right well. Let's get into it. Let's talk about being fearfully and wonderfully made. So just think of it. When you have a baby, the first thing that you're just so amazed by that child, you're holding that child and you're looking at their little fingers, their little toes, their little eyes, their ears, their lips. In your eyes, they are just so perfect. But as we get older and, whether you're the parent as that child gets older, you start looking in the mirror and you see different little imperfections and things about you. Sometimes some of us, we have some insecurities that they want us to change. We want to change something about ourselves, right? So I can start off first by just giving you one of mine. Being fearfully and wonderfully made, there's times I look in the mirror and I'm like, I'm not sure why, like, God did this. Like, why couldn't he just give me this? For instance, one of them is my lips. And I've always told my husband, like, if I could have a job done, I'd just get like a little lip reduction. I would just, have it just reduced just a little bit, just being honest. Because it's just not something that I'm like proud about or just that I really embrace. And then there's other times where people look at you and they just think they see something about you and they're like, oh, that's beautiful. And you're just like, that's something I really struggle with about myself, right? But anyway, so I'm just keeping it really real with you. And then I thought, as people get older, there's different things that you can have done. You can have lip fillers, you can get a BBL, you can get breast implants, you can get a nose job done. What can you not do, especially these days, right? And I often think, the more you try to edit yourself is the more you take away from who God created you to be. Now, let's be honest, there's sometimes where you do have to have maybe more of an aesthetic job done. Maybe you've got a mold that you're not comfortable with, right? Or maybe like your teeth, you're just not comfortable with and you want to get some veneers. Or maybe it is that you've just had maybe a really slanted smile, or maybe you had an incident where it's like, okay, you broke your nose, or you've had something done and it's just like it's left a really weird position on your face where you're just like, oh, I think I want to get my nose straightened a little bit. There are certain things where I'm like, in all moderation, I'm like, that's fine. But if it is, sometimes I feel like we try to always look like something else, right? Like, oh, like we want to get breast implants because, oh, like we want bigger cleavage. Or, oh, we want to get a BBL done because, hey, we feel like we're flat as Jack in the back, right? And it's like we're always trying to like edit, add to ourselves. So I'll give you another personal story of myself. I just find sometimes when you're trying to edit and take away from who you really are or make yourself look better in what you think are your own eyes, sometimes you can end up wrecking yourself. So one time, I'm about using masks, so this has nothing to do with that. But one time I used a mask, I believe it was a charcoal mask or something. And for the life of me, I put this mask on. I don't know if I had it on for too long or not, but the gist of the story is I could not get this mask off of my nose, okay? If you know me, I'm very particular with my face. I use the very bare minimum because I always say your face is the first thing that people see about you, right? So anyways, back to this mask. I couldn't get it off my nose. So here I was. They're trying to use all these things. I was trying to use oils. I was trying to use just like whatever to just like get this thing off my nose. And as I was standing there in the mirror trying to get it, I just felt like, why am I doing this? Now, again, I'm about using masks. Like there's sometimes like your face just, maybe it's too oily and you got stuff that you just need to have cleaned off your face or whatever, right? So I'm not against masks. I'm not against, if you got to do your stuff, you do you, boo. This is just me sharing my story. But as I began to look at it, I was like, what am I doing? And then I thought to myself, if that thing would have gotten stuck on my nose where I had to go to the hospital or something, like, what would I have had to say to myself? Like, I would have had regrets. And I remember after I got that thing off my nose, like, my nose was really red for a bit. And it was just, like, right around here. It was really red for a bit. And I just thought, like, another reason why I should have just left it alone. Like, whatever I was doing with my nose, I should have just left it alone because it did not need to be fixed. Like, whatever I was trying to do, obviously, I didn't need to do that, right? So it's just like, and then even the time, like I have a friend and she's gotten a lip filler and she's telling me something about it, like how something happened with it. And I'm like, girl, like, why would you put yourself under all that pressure to like have that done? And then like if something burst or whatever, then you're left with something that is like, you now have to go and try to fix again, right? So it brought me to, sometimes it's good to just embrace who we are, right? Even with our imperfections, somebody's going to love something about us. Like somebody's going to love us just as we are, right? And my son actually really made me look into, that's why I say kids were a teacher. He really made me look into some things. He's seen some ladies one time, they had pink and purple hair and he's like, oh, like that's so beautiful. They look so beautiful. And I was thinking to myself, like, how do you think that's beautiful? Like, what about that is beautiful? And then I realized, okay, in a kid's eye, it's bright, it's fun, it's colorful. They're kids, they like color. But then I began to tell him, as he was asking me, like, why don't I do something like that with my hair? I was like, hey, like, Jesus didn't make me like with hair like that. Like, you know, when people dye their hair and do those things, they are adding to themselves. Like, Jesus didn't make people with like pink, purple, orange hair. But that's just something people choose to do, you know, for a certain trend, a lifestyle, or just, hey, to do something different, right? So I was telling him, like, hey, Jesus made me, like, with the hair that I have, like, of course it's getting grays now, um, but with black hair with copper highlights in there, right? That's me, right? Like, that's how Jesus made my hair. So, like, why I don't need to do anything else with it. And then he was asking me about my nails. I'm like, hey, like, why don't you get that done? Like, you'll look at other people and then look at me like, are you missing the ball with something? Like, why aren't you doing that? And so I've had to explain to him, hey, like for mommy personally, like mommy doesn't need to do that. I've done it before. I've had the really pretty pedicures before, right? And manicures where I've had color and everything. Are they beautiful? Yes, but it's just not something that I need to do to add to me. Now, do I get pedicures and manicures done? Absolutely. But I go most of the times for a more natural look. But anyways, just saying this to say, I just want to encourage you that if you're in a space where you're just like, you just feel like you always have to add something to yourself or, you know, put on a bunch of stuff to make yourself look a certain way. I get it. We all have our own insecurities, but try to embrace who you are. And I think oftentimes when we're dating or we're getting to meet people, I often think like the guys usually get probably like the worst in the stick a lot of time, because usually when they meet us, like we have a whole cake face of makeup on if we are not going natural, right? And it's just like they don't get to really see if we're doing going on first impression because we're all dolled up, we have our stuff on. But it's like, you know, the relationship progresses and you get more comfortable, and then that person gets to see, hey, that's who they are under there, right? And it's like, just be yourself. I'm saying this to myself as well, but it's just like, just be yourself. And I was saying, like, even when you meet a guy, like the only thing I always say to people, I'm like, never trust a guy in a hat because you don't know if he's bald or gray under there. I'm like, always make sure he has his hat on, because you just get a very different look when somebody has a hat on than when somebody doesn't, right? So I just feel like when we embrace who we are, it will attract other people to just be like, wow, that person's confident in their skin. They're beautiful as they are. Maybe they have their curves and whatever. And let's talk about curves for a bit. So I've got 3 beautiful sisters, but the 2 that actually live with me, I would often refer to myself sometimes when people would ask, oh, I can't remember your names, because we all had our first initial of our names were all O's. So I would always tell people, hey, if you can't remember me, not always, but I tell people time to time, if you can't remember what my name is, just remember I'm the bigger one. And thinking about that is just like, I still struggle with my weight and my self-esteem and being confident with that. But it's just like, think about that. Like, I am telling somebody like to remember me because I have more weight on me, right? And I think we often do that. We always be like, oh, like it's the guy that's like a little bit more bigger, right? Instead of being like, oh yeah, I can't remember his name, but I think he's related or connected to so and so, right? But I think we sometimes take our insecurities and things that we're not comfortable with, and then we pass them on to other people by, like I did, telling somebody else, hey, remember I'm the bigger one, right? But it's just like, hey, maybe I am the big one, and that's okay, right? And I think I want to talk to moms, especially after you have kids. Sometimes you can just feel like, oh my goodness, where am I going? Where are my clothes going? Like, I think somebody who's been really real is, I love how real Rihanna has been with, she had said one time, I don't have it word for word, but she made a comment one time about after having her kids, it's just like, what do you even wear? Because like you can't even really fit anything. Your body is just this form and shape now where it's like you put something on it, it looks weird, or it's just a whole other thing. You almost have to get custom made clothes for your body after you have kids, because it's so hard to sometimes find things, and sometimes you go through your closet because you just don't feel good or confident enough in it. So I just want to encourage you, like sometimes we look at celebrities and be like, oh, they snap back like that, or we look at other family members or friends. It's just like, you are going to be you. You're going to snap back in whatever time span that you do. And I think what was really encouraging for me is we have a good family friend, and when I was pregnant with my daughter, he encouraged me. He's like, took you 9 months for your body to become like this. So give yourself about 2 years for you to like even think about or worry about your weight. He's like, in so many words, like just give yourself grace. Like don't be worried about it because you carried a baby for so long. Like it's gonna take some time. And that really stood out to me because I think a lot of times after you have kids, like you're so in your head about stuff, and then sometimes you think about like how are people going to perceive me, or like you just can be really in your head about things, and rightfully so sometimes, right? Because maybe some of us haven't had that snapback, but when somebody encourages you like that, it's just like, okay, that's right, I'm gonna give myself grace. And I'm gonna hopefully share an even more personal story. So even where like kids are concerned, I remember there's been times when, more so after I had my son, where I was just like so worried about my weight and how I looked that I would wear stuff that I was like, yeah, it's gonna like tuck in my belly. And sometimes I'd have like too much stuff on and too tight to where it started like bothering my ribs because I was just so worried about like an image. I thought like you had to snap back and you had to be this and that. And after a while I realized, especially now with having, well, I had the miscarriage and then my daughter, I'm just like, I'm going to give myself some grace. I'm going to take my friend's advice and I'm going to give myself some grace. And when I get there, I get there. Now, do I need to take my health into consideration? Oh, absolutely. But giving yourself grace also to just embrace you. If you're a mom, if you've just had a child, or if your kid's 2 or 3, it's okay. You will maybe not get back to 100% where you were before kids, but maybe you lose 10, 15, 20 pounds and you would just be like, I'm happy right where I'm at. Anyways, I don't want to go too long on this, but I just wanted to share that, hey, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And I was thinking about this. I'm like, the first part of that verse is, I will praise thee. Okay, I am not like thanking God for like things he created or made about me. I was really thinking about it. I kind of even like just was like studying it out. Like, what does that scripture mean? And it literally meant what I've been saying, is just embracing your unique traits. Like every one of us is going to be different, look different. That's what makes this world beautiful. We don't all look the same, right? Our skin tones, everything. But in the midst of that, we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Anyways, I hope this does encourage you. Maybe me sharing my very real, maybe very vulnerable stories um, will help encourage you that, hey, like it's not just you. Like, you know, sometimes we have these things and sometimes we're in our head, and then there's other times we're just being really human because we have very natural feelings to feel the ways that we do. Anyways, I'm going to wrap this up, but please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And you guys know how it goes here. Until next time.